Hey, thanks for tuning in. So this is a video that I've been wanting to do for a really long time, and I apologize it's taken me so long to do this. I've been promising it for a long time, but here it goes. What I essentially want to show you is how to repair a doll, or get the joints to behave like they were when it was new, make them tight-fitted again. And this, incidentally, is also a really good way to prepare any sort of doll for animation, because what you want to have is a very even, very smooth and tight-fitted rotation on all of the joints. And so I'm essentially going to go through how you would go about doing something like that. What I have here is a doll that I came out with over a year ago. It's Ranger version 2016. So I had this doll built in December of 2015. And I used it a lot for taking a lot of pictures for all of the marketing material that's been used to promote that earlier version of the doll. And so as you can see here, it's pretty loose and pretty used up. And what I'm going to do is loosen it even further, because I'm going to go ahead and tighten them anyway. So I might as well just overwear the joints just to make sure that the sockets and the joints themselves are as smooth as they can possibly be. Since all these pieces are manufactured with 3D printing, when they're brand new, they're tight fitted and they worked really well, but over time as they wear out, they will wear out selectively, and some parts will be smoother than other parts. And so ideally, I would like them to be equally worn throughout so that I can apply this coating indiscriminately on the joint. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just wearing out the joint, over-wearing it out. And next, what I would suggest doing is getting some of this super glue that we sell on our storefront. There's a whole bunch of brands out there, and they all behave slightly differently. This is the one that I found works best, so I make it available in case you want to buy it. But it's essentially Elmer's super glue. And you put this on the joint, and then you snap it back on, and you rotate it again so that glue spreads out throughout the socket and around the joint. Now, you don't actually have to remove any of the doll pieces to do this. And one of the beautiful things about Armature 9 and the A9 rigs is that all the joints are exposed. And so, for instance, if you were to look at something like the hands, where there's a lot of intricacy, you could simply rotate those fingers back so that the entire socket is completely exposed. Put a little bit of super glue in those sockets and then rotate the fingers back up, and allowing the glue to sort of spread through the socket. Now, the thing you want to be careful with, of course, is you don't want the glue to dry the joint in place. So to avoid this, you just got to keep moving it back and forward throughout the entire drawing process. And this is essentially the technique that I use to tighten all the joints. Now, you could remove the joint, of course, and add the super glue and snap back in. You want to be careful, though, and make sure if you're going to be doing that, to be looking the other way or using eyewear so that you don't get any sort of splashes of glue in your face. So the safest thing to do is really to just expose the joint, rotate the part so that the joint is exposed, put a little bit of glue in there, rotate the joint back around, swing it back and forward, and keep doing so throughout the entire drawing process. Now, you're going to be alarmed at first because it's going to act like a lubricant, and the first thing you're going to notice is, oh my gosh, it's really loose now that the glue is in there. Sometimes I'll do 2 or 3 joints at a time, but you don't want to go beyond that, because if you forget about turning one, then you're going to go back to it and realize it's been fused together. Now, there are some times where that's happened to me, and I've been able to salvage it by carefully torquing the joint so that I'm holding it closely to the pivoting point and not accidentally breaking the part by ending up twisting it. So sometimes you can salvage a part if you've allowed it to dry for too long without moving it. And I do this for everything. I do this for the hips, the twist joints, and as you can see, what I'm left with is a doll that is tight and firm-fitted. In fact, maybe a little bit more firm-fitted than it was when it was brand new. The cool thing about this approach is that you can use it as you're operating your doll. As things start to wear out, you maintain that joint rather than doing what I've done here, which is do them all at the same time. That can be a little bit overwhelming. But if you just take the time when you notice a loose joint to apply a little bit of this glue in there and keep rotating it back and forward so you coat the entire joint with the glue and keep moving it throughout the entire drawing process, then you'll find you'll restore a really good firm fitting again. Now the other thing to keep in mind, and this is especially true of the fingers, if you're tightening the fingers, and this is especially true also of the new hand design because it's much smaller, the fingers are so wide they don't really they can't really make a full rotation if the fingers are all next to each other. And so you'll want to work on each finger at one at a time. I still put the glue into all 4 fingers, but I rotate them one at a time so that I can make a full rotation as the glue is drying. And the reason you want to do this is because as the glue dries, what you're essentially doing is you're shaping a brand new socket. And if you don't make the full rotation with the finger up and down as the glue is drying, then you may end up forming a socket that will impede the finger from actually making a full rotation once the glue has fully dried. So keep that in mind. Well, that's pretty much it. Not only is this doll completely tightened up and like new, it's also set up for stop motion animation because the joints are really smooth now. They rotate really smoothly and they're really firm. And if they get loose again, or if I find that one wasn't tight enough, I can do a step and repeat and go through this process once over. So if you have any questions, leave it in the comments. I'd be happy to help. But hopefully this gets you up and running, or at least gets one of your old armatures up and running again, and you're able to make further use of these products that I make at armature9.com. Thanks so much for watching. Good night.